If you're in the market for a reasonably affordable city hopper, you had Honda Civics and Toyota Corollas. But as Koreans get better and better at making cars like this Forte seem to be better options. You get more tech, more comfort, and more bang for your buck in just about each model. So let's take a look at this 2014 Forte and take a look at the tech inside. Let me start off by talking about the space inside this cabin. They did a really good job of making this cabin feel very open, and it doesn't feel like I'm in a subcompact car. You gotta remember the Forte is competing with the Honda Civic, the Toyota Corolla, so these cars are really meant to be really small city cars, but this one feels very spacious inside. You don't feel claustrophobic in here, and it's actually a very nice sized car. And moving on to the infotainment system, I still stand by this thing as being one of the best, if not the best, in the whole world in this business of automotive infotainment systems. This is running Kia's UVO system, which means it has an amazing touchscreen and amazing voice recognition. On the Kia Forte, the system is actually SD card based, which means updates will be very easy to do in the future, just swapping out an SD card for the latest version of that map. But that also adds the benefit of having a touchscreen and a system that is quite literally very, very, very fast. You can just touch the inputs here. It's quick, it's responsive, and I really like that there's no lag. Basically, throughout the whole system, there is zero lag through the whole system. Inputting addresses is also done very quickly. You can either type them or use the voice recognition, which also works very well.
Please say a command after the beep.
Find address.
Find address. Please say address without state name or say change state.
235 2nd Street, Nashville, Tennessee.
Line, please.
1. What I like about it is you can blurt out full street addresses along with the city and state, and it picks up all the information at one time. It's not 100% accurate all the time, so you still have to use the touchscreen for some things. Now for media inputs, you have quite a lot of options. You have satellite radio, AM, FM radio as well. You have HD radio along with that. Plus you can do things like Bluetooth streaming from your cell phone, auxiliary in, USB in. Actually, there's a USB plug in the center console. I don't know who will use that, but you do have that option if you still do that. Bluetooth streaming is a very popular thing. You have things like iTunes Radio on iOS, and you have things like Google Music on the Android phone. So having Bluetooth streaming is a great plus to have on this car. Plus, you do have great meta tags coming off that device when you stream Bluetooth. Other technology in the cabin include this little LCD panel in the middle of the cluster here. You have things like trip information. You also have things like media playback, like your Sirius stuff, or your radio, or your Bluetooth streaming. You have navigation, so when you're having a navigation running on this center display, it actually pops up here with small little prompts. You also have warnings and alerts, so if you have icing or something, if it's really cold, it will alert you to be careful. And the last thing is you have the settings, so obviously you can set things, you can check your oil level. And the last one is actually your settings and service panel. This will tell you things like if you're running low on oil, but it will also connect with your mobile device on that UVO eServices application and tell you when you need a service, and that will send right to your device via email or a notification on your iOS or Android device. The new Forte has suspension that I'm not sure what they've done to it, but it feels a lot more compliant. Maybe it's just a longer wheelbase from the last generation Kia Forte, but it does feel like a better riding car. Now up in front, you do have a 2-liter direct injected 4-cylinder engine. It produces around 160 horsepower. It's not the most powerful engine in the world. It's not the most peppiest, but it definitely does get the job done, and it doesn't really annoy you or tire you out on the highway. It gets around 35 miles to a gallon in the city. I've been averaging about 30, so it's pretty good so far. It does around 400 miles to 1 tank of fuel, and the tank is only about 14 gallons, so it's definitely a very economical car. Other than the infotainment system display and the display in the gauge, there's not that much around. You have heated seats and cooled seats on the driver's side. You have heated seats on the passenger side. You have a heated steering wheel. And that's about it. There's nothing too special. There's no lane departure warning. There's no blind spot detection system. It's just a nice car to drive with decent amount of technology, and it's not very expensive. You gotta think it's competing with Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla, so you can get yourself into one of these for about 15,000 bucks. But this one costs around $25,000. That means it has every single option you can add onto a Kia Forte. When you're talking about over $25,000 for a fully spec'd Kia Forte, That's crossing the line into the Kia Optima line, which means you can get a much larger car, a better looking car, a more powerful car for about the same money. The only thing is you're not going to get a fully spec'd up model. You're going to get a kind of mid-level, mid-range Kia Optima, which isn't actually that bad because there's still a lot of technology on that car as well. But if you're looking for a small car that's cheap, has enough technology to keep you going for the next 5 to 6 years or so, then I mean the Kia Forte is definitely a good option, and it's a little bit cheaper than buying, say, a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, especially the new Mazda 3. So if it was my money, I would probably go for the Kia Optima.